Hello, this is a first introduction to SDKgen app, a powerful code generator to automatically build client SDKs. At first we need to register at the SDKgen app. In this example I am using the GitHub login, but you can also manually register with your email. At the backend you have the option to test and play with the code generator. With a click on the Generate button you can see the generated code for each file. To integrate the code generator into your workflow we need to create an app to obtain an app key and secret. Those credentials can then be used with the SDKgen binary or GitHub action. At the Apps tab we have the option to create a new app. With a click on the plus button we can create a new app. There you must enter the name and URL of your app. You also need to select the fitting scopes which can be obtained with your app key and secret. In this case we only need the generator scope. With a click on the Create button we can save our new app. In the summary you can now see the app key and secret. In the following example we use those credentials to work with the SDKgen binary to generate a client SDK. We are now taking a look at the Fusio SDK which we use as example to show how you can integrate the SDKgen code generator. At first you need a SDKgen JSON file which basically contains all your API dependencies. We have locally installed the SDKgen binary. You can get this binary directly from our website. Also we have provided the app key and secret as environment variable so that the binary can work with your account. With the update command the generator uses the SDKgen JSON file to generate all configured dependencies. The generation was successful. At the SRC folder we now see the ready-to-use client SDK. At our SDKgen JSON file we have referenced a specification from our Type Hub platform which is a public and central place to manage your type API specification, but you can also simply reference local files or HTTP. To automatically generate the SDK we have integrated the SDKgen GitHub action which automatically generates the code in case a workflow was triggered. This trigger can be also issued by the Type Hub platform. To give you a complete overview of the SDKgen ecosystem we take a short look into the Type Hub platform which you can use to manage your specification. At Type Hub you can also log in with your GitHub account or you can register with your email. In this case we use our Fusio account to take a look at the Fusio specification which we have just generated. At the Me panel we see all specifications which are managed by this account. If we click on the Fusio SDK we see at first a preview of the complete API specification. At the right export panel you can directly export this specification into a specific target language. The Commit tab contains an overview of all changes. Each change on your specification is recorded as commit, so that you can easily track every change. At the Editor tab you can directly edit your specification. At the Trigger tab you can configure a trigger to automatically execute a specific GitHub workflow in case your specification has changed. At last I like to show you the SDKgen Fusio integration. Fusio is an open-source API management system which also integrates with the SDKgen code generator. On my local Fusio instance, I have provided the SDKgen app key and secret AS environment variable. We can now log into the Fusio backend. In this example, I have automatically created a REST API based on a WordPress database. If we now go to the Consumer SDK panel, we see new client generator options like Java or C# which are provided by the SDKgen code generator. With a click on the Generate button, we can generate the SDK. After this, you can also download the generated SDK and use it at any client. This was a short introduction to the SDKgen platform and ecosystem. I hope you are also excited about the possibilities and feel free to register to work with SDKgen.